Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. We've been married 21 years. I'm 42 now. She's 40. We met at a party organized by a mutual friend, one of those chaotic house parties where people talked over the music and drank warm beer. From the first moment, I was drawn to her. She had this sharp, sarcastic personality, the kind that could silence a whole room with one well-placed phrase. I like that about her. I still like it, if I'm honest, just not when she turns it on me. We started with very little. Young. No clear direction. Then Maya came along, and everything changed. She's 19 now. Back then, we were just trying to stay afloat, doing what we could. I worked nonstop nights, weekends while Lydia stayed home, raised our daughter, managed the house. Over time, she went back to school part-time, then started working from home as a wellness counselor. She found her rhythm. But somewhere along the way, we started to drift. I got more grounded, practical. She, as she puts it now, became more aligned with her higher self. Her tone changed. Her patience thinned. It felt like everything I said rubbed her the wrong way. And Maya, she stopped being neutral. She took Lydia's side in everything. Like her personal cheerleader. It all came to a head about 6 months ago. I came home from work tired, hungry. I grabbed some leftovers, sat down in the kitchen to eat. Lydia was pacing. That familiar kind of pacing, tight, restless. It's how she moves when she's gearing up to tell me something I won't like. Eventually, she sat down across from me. Calm. Way too calm. Emerson asked me to stay with him for a while, she said. I froze mid-bite. The fork hung in the air. He's going through a rough patch, she added. Emerson. Her ex. Never a husband. Just some guy from her past. The kind she'd only ever mentioned in passing, usually with a shrug, and it was a disaster. I didn't say a word. Just stared, still holding the damn fork. She went on, like she was reading a grocery list. It'll only be 30 days. His wife passed away. He's having a hard time grieving. I feel like I should help him close that chapter. I set the fork down. Slowly. Leaned forward. My voice came out low, cold. You're going to live with your ex-boyfriend for a month, while you are still married to me. Lydia tilted her head, giving me that look, the one she used when I was being dramatic. Like I was overreacting, like this wasn't insane. It's not like that, she said, her voice soft but clipped. It's not a relationship. I just want to support him. He's suffering. I blinked. Incredulously. Of course, I said, letting the sarcasm slip out. Because the best way to handle grief is with shared coffees and morning routines. Her expression hardened. She crossed her arms, a wall going up. Don't be cruel. He lost someone. And I'm about to lose someone too. My stomach turned. Since when have you been talking again? A while ago, she said with a shrug. From time to time. It's not like I hid it from you. You didn't mention it once, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Not one word. Not until today, right when you've already decided the date you're moving. I didn't get to finish. Maya appeared from the hallway, barefoot, arms crossed, eyes already blazing. Perfect. She hadn't heard everything, but that never stopped her from picking a side. And that side was never mine. He's not your property, Dad, she snapped, standing there like she was ready for a debate team final. You can't control who she talks to or where she goes. She can help someone if she chooses to. Excuse me, I said, turning toward her. Am I now your ex-step, not your father? Maya scoffed, like she had rehearsed this. You always make everything about you. This isn't about you. It's Mom doing something good for someone who needs it. Maya, I said, trying to bring some sense into the room. She's talking about moving in with her ex for a month. Lydia cut in quickly. I'm not going to share a bed with him, if that's what you're thinking. But a house. Yes, I said, nodding slowly, staring right at her. Maya shrugged like I just pointed out the weather. You're exaggerating. It's not like they're going on their honeymoon. And I'm here, I said, voice catching, paying for everything. Feeling replaced. Lydia raised her voice slightly, the calm tone cracking. That's why I didn't tell you before. I knew you were going to react like this. You didn't tell me before. I shot back, because you knew it sounded absurd, and you thought if you said it casually I'd just accept it. Maya rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. You're being ridiculous. Do you think everything revolves around your opinion? She's doing something good, and you're burning up because it's not about you. I looked at both of them, Lydia with her arms crossed like a martyr, and Maya with all the righteousness of a teenager convinced she's cracked the code to morality. Do you hear yourselves? I asked quietly. Are you seriously justifying Mom moving in with her ex, and I'm the irrational one? You're twisting things, Lydia said, her tone sharp but measured. No, I replied, voice even. I just repeated your words. You're going to be with Emerson for 30 days to support him. How do you expect me to interpret that? We will have boundaries, she said, crossing her arms, that defensive posture she always took when she'd already made up her mind. Sure, like the kind a hotel would impose, I said. Or maybe just a phone call. But instead, you pack a suitcase and disappear into another man's kitchen. She said nothing. Then Maya jumped in, voice dipped in that practiced righteousness. You're acting as if she's abandoning you. She's just being a good person, but your ego can't take it. She is abandoning me, I said, turning to look her straight in the eye. I'm her husband. We live together. And she is choosing to stay somewhere else with someone she had a relationship with. What do you want me to call it? They both sat there, calm, composed, like they were the rational ones. Like I was the lunatic in the room for thinking this entire situation was unacceptable. I didn't argue further. Instead, I stood up, walked to the counter, picked up my laptop, and sat back down at the table. Lydia watched me carefully like she expected me to look up therapists or marriage counselors. I didn't. I opened my email and started typing. Subject line, clarification regarding separation. Just one paragraph. Clear. Direct. As discussed today, you have decided to reside outside our shared home for the next 30 days. During this time, all financial responsibilities, services, bills, and expenses will be separate, including fuel, food, streaming services, subscriptions, gym memberships, and Maya's school fees. Please confirm for the record. No emotions. No exclamation marks. Just facts. I hit send. CC'd myself. I didn't even have to wait 5 seconds. Lydia let out a dry laugh. Seriously? An email? You want to act like an adult? I said, not looking up, then play by the rules. I'm not going to support 2 households. You made a decision, I'm just formalizing it in writing. She took out her phone, typed something for a few seconds without saying a word. Then she looked up and said, happy? A second later, the soft ding of an incoming email. I opened it. One word. Confirmed. Maya was still standing there like she was on the set of some empowerment campaign, arms folded, chin up, expression full of rehearsed certainty. Then she clapped. Actually clapped. Good job, Mom. Clear boundary. I turned to her. Calm. Flat. Perfect. Then your card for college is frozen starting tomorrow. Clear boundary for everyone. And she stopped clapping in an instant. Lydia looked at me with that half smile of hers, the kind she used when she wanted to seem composed but smug. Then she shrugged. It doesn't matter. I'll be back before you even notice I'm gone. I didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Just looked her straight in the eyes. I will not miss anyone, I said. And I meant it. The next morning, she packed a small suitcase like she was heading off to a wellness retreat or some kind of personal awakening. Maya followed her around, carrying bags with this calculated enthusiasm, like she was acting out a scene she had already imagined 100 times. There were no tears, no hesitation, not a single flicker of doubt from either of them, and that hurt more than I could have predicted. In that moment, I didn't feel like a father or a husband. I felt like the handyman, the guy who pays the bills and fixes the leaking faucet. Like my role had already been recast in their minds, and I was the only one who hadn't gotten the memo. When they pulled out of the garage, they didn't even glance back. They drove off as if they were the ones owed something. Like I was just some checkpoint they were finally getting past. I stood in the doorway for several minutes, trying to make sense of the dense silence left in their wake. No slamming doors, no shoes on the tile, no overlapping voices filling the space. Just absence. I walked back into the kitchen. Lydia's plate was still in the sink, crumbs from the toast we ate just before she left. That final, quiet breakfast that neither of us acknowledged as a last. I glanced down the hallway at Maya's room. The door was wide open, the lights still on. Like they'd left in a rush, or maybe just didn't care. As if they had escaped their responsibilities under the umbrella of some 30-day experiment, one they hadn't thought through beyond the symbolism. And in that moment, I understood exactly what they believed I was. The constant, the fallback, the dependable wild card. The guy who would still be standing there when they returned, arms open, as if this whole stunt had been some spiritual revelation. No, not this time. I didn't act out of rage. I didn't throw things or call anyone. I waited, gave it a full day out of clarity, not restraint. The first 24 hours were eerily quiet. Too quiet. Even the house seemed unsure how to breathe without their voices echoing off its walls. The next day, I went to work like nothing had happened. I told no one. I wasn't avoiding the truth, I was simply getting my feet under me, preparing the ground. Because when you live with people who assume you'll always be there, who treat your presence as a given, there's something profoundly freeing about realizing you don't have to be. As soon as I got home, I sat down at the kitchen table with a notebook and began listing out every subscription, bill, and shared expense that came out of my pocket. The list was longer than I expected. Music subscriptions, grocery delivery services, Amazon Prime, even that astrology app Lydia claimed kept her centered. I canceled everything. No warnings. No messages. Just silent, clean cuts. Then I checked the shared cloud account. Lydia had been uploading photos from Emerson's house. Nothing scandalous: selfies on the porch, pictures of his dog, some green smoothies. Nothing that screamed betrayal. But still, it bothered me. Not because I believed something had happened between them. Not yet. But because of her face, serene, glowing, at ease. Too calm. Meanwhile, I was here disassembling what they left behind. So I kept going. I logged into the family budget app, the one I set up because neither of them ever bothered to track expenses. I removed their profiles, downloaded the entire financial history, every receipt, every shared purchase, every forgotten subscription, and saved it to an external drive. Not out of paranoia, just in case. In case things went sideways. In case they thought they could rewrite the timeline. They wanted 30 days. Fine. I was going to give it to them, but on my terms. On the third day, the notification started. Maya tried to pay at that overpriced restaurant she loved. One of those places that served lettuce with a backstory. Her card was declined. I knew because she sent me a screenshot, followed by a message. Was it you? I didn't respond. That night, Lydia emailed me. Hey, I think there's a problem with the cards. Let me know. I replied simply. Everything is working fine here. I assume Emerson is taking care of it. No response. Hours later, Maya posted one of those cryptic, passive-aggressive quotes on Instagram. Some people show who they really are when you stop giving them what they want. Instagram philosophy. A salad must have really moved her. But this wasn't revenge. It wasn't punishment. It was reciprocity. You choose to move in with your ex to help him mourn his wife? Fine. But don't expect me to keep the pantry full while you're playing grief counselor in someone else's kitchen. I spent the rest of the week cleaning physically and digitally. I boxed up the little things Lydia left behind. Creams, her favorite mugs, those fuzzy blankets she always curled up with. Not out of spite, just for order. I labeled everything and stacked the boxes in the garage. Out of sight. Neat. Maya's room I left untouched. Not because I missed her. Not because I was clinging to anything. I just didn't feel like dealing with it yet. But I did turn off the lights she left on. And I unplugged the iron from the bathroom. Electricity costs money. By the end of that week, the house felt different. Lighter. As if it, too, was shedding something heavy, something it had carried for far too long. The air wasn't as thick. The silence wasn't as sharp. There was room now, both physically and mentally, that hadn't existed before. That's when it hit me. I was the one holding everything up. Not just financially. That part was obvious. But emotionally, mentally. I had become the scaffolding for two people who wandered through life as if stability was just a default setting, automatic, expected, indestructible. And maybe I enabled that. Maybe by always showing up, paying the bills, fixing the faucet, picking up the slack, I made it too easy to forget that someone was holding the pieces together. Lydia always told me I was too practical, that I needed to live in the moment. The irony? I only started doing that when she left. That weekend, I finally told someone. My sister, Delia. We're not close in the sentimental way, no heart-to-hearts or long visits. But she's trustworthy. Zero drama. The kind of person who says what she means and means what she says. She lives an hour away. We usually talk once a week, mostly about mom or Vin or whatever boring family update needs mentioning. But this time, I called her early Sunday morning. No text first. Just dialed. She picked up with a sleepy, half-suspicious tone. You never call at this hour. What happened? I didn't waste time. Lydia went to live with her ex. For 30 days. Silence. Then, what? I told her the essentials. Lydia's announcement. Maya's little cheerleading moment. The whole closure story. I left out the part about green smoothies and Instagram posts, but the weight of it all came through. Delia didn't interrupt. She just listened. Let me lay it all out. And when I finally stopped talking, she said, and you're going to allow that? I answered calmly. I'm not stopping her, but I'm not paying for her stay either. Another pause. Then a low, approving sound from her end. Good. Don't. No yelling. No drama. Just support, calm, firm, honest. Then, after a beat, she added, if you need to come over for a few days, I've got space. I thanked her, told her I was fine, and I meant it. The silence at home, it wasn't the enemy. It was clarity. For the first time in a long time, I could think. Actually think. When I hung up, I felt something close to relief. Not because someone had finally taken my side, I wasn't looking for that. But because someone saw it clearly. Called it for what it was. No cliches. No every marriage has ups and downs. No try to talk it out. Delia didn't ask me to fix it. She told me to take care of myself. By the time the 7th day rolled around, I had a rhythm. Wake, work, eat, clean, rest, repeat. I slept better, ate better, felt lighter. What surprised me most wasn't how much I missed them. It was how quickly the house adapted. No extra shoes cluttering the entryway. No dirty mugs on the living room shelf. No tension clinging to the walls. By the second week, the atmosphere had changed. It was quiet, yes, but not peaceful. Not the comforting kind of silence. It was the kind you feel right before a storm. When everything is too still, too quiet, there's that itch under your skin, that tightness in your chest like the air pressure just dropped. Something's coming. You can't explain it, but your gut knows. And I wasn't wrong. It was Maya who broke the silence first. I was in the garage, halfway through reorganizing a shelf that had been leaning for months. Finally doing the things that had sat ignored while I was too busy keeping the rest of the house from collapsing. I had my sleeves rolled up, a drill in one hand, and a half-empty bottle of water next to me, when my phone started vibrating. Nonstop. 2 missed calls from Maya. Then a voicemail. Then a text. We need to talk. Now. That kind of message never bodes well, especially not from someone who, just 2 weeks earlier, accused me of financially manipulating her because I had the audacity to cancel her Spotify account. I stared at the screen. Let it buzz against the workbench. I didn't respond. Instead, I went inside, poured myself a drink, something strong, and sat down at the kitchen table. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. This time, I answered. No greeting. No hi, Dad. Not even a fake pleasantry. She dove in. Was it you who canceled my access to the university portal? I can't log into anything. I kept my voice flat. I didn't cancel your portal access. What I did was close the card that was linked to it. If that was the one paying for your extras, then yes, you'll need to sort that out yourself. Her voice rose immediately. You can't do this to me. This affects my education. I leaned back in my chair. Took a slow sip. And who's been funding that education so far? Tuition, books, rent, food. I've paid for everything. I paused, then added. But you stood there when your mom told me she was going to live with her ex, and you supported her. You treated it like she was doing something noble. So if you consider yourself an adult, now act like one. Dead silence. Then the line clicked dead. That was the first crack. It didn't take long for Lydia to follow. The very next morning, I got an email. Subject line, we need to talk. No greeting. No apology. Just a block of cold words. I feel this has gone too far. You've made your point clear. I think we should sit down and talk when I get back and see how we restart everything. Restart. As if this whole thing was a TV show that had gone off the rails, and we just needed to reboot the plot. As if she hadn't walked out the door for a 30-day spiritual retreat with her ex. I didn't reply. Didn't even open it beyond the preview. I marked it as unread, just in case. Then I closed the laptop and got on with my day. The next call came from Delia. She didn't waste time. You haven't told me anything since that first conversation. I didn't know how to explain it, so I said the simplest version. Maya posted something about me abandoning her. All because she can't access the university gym anymore. There was a pause on her end. Then, seriously? That's the big crisis. I sighed. Yep. Can't book her Zumba classes now, apparently. It's the end of the world. Delia let out a dry laugh, short, clipped, but real. The kind of laugh that doesn't need to be loud to land. And I appreciated that. Look, I thought Lydia was a sensible woman. Truly. But lately, it's like she left her common sense on the side of the road and just kept driving. She used to be grounded even when we disagreed. I could trust her to think things through. Now, it's as if she justifies everything under the umbrella of being needed. And Emerson, he gave her the perfect excuse. She was right. I didn't say it out loud. But I thought it. This wasn't about healing. It was about control. Lydia needed to feel indispensable to someone. I wasn't that person anymore, not because I pushed her away, but because I didn't require her for validation. And that was intolerable to her. So she found someone who did. And sometimes people will justify anything: abandonment, betrayal, neglect, if they can dress it up in empathy. Helping someone. Closure. Healing. During the following days, I focused on the only thing that still made sense: our finances. I reviewed everything with precision, made some adjustments. I removed Maya as a secondary user from one of my credit cards. Not because I was angry, but because I wanted order. No more 9 a.m. texts about chai lattes being declined. Shortly after that, one of Maya's friends, one of those kids who used to camp out in our living room every weekend, sent me a direct message. It was brief. I just wanted to tell you that what they're doing to you seems very unfair. I hope you're okay. That message, it hit harder than all of Maya's dramatic posts or Lydia's cold emails. Because here was someone who owed me absolutely nothing. And yet, they could clearly see what the people under my roof, people I fed, protected, supported, refused to acknowledge. Finally, on day 29, I made a single call. No email. No heads up. No warnings. I called the same courier I used for work contracts. A guy I trusted, fast, discreet. I need you to deliver an envelope to this address. I gave him Emerson's. Would you like to include a note? He asked. Yes. Inside the envelope were the divorce papers. Straightforward. No drama. Just the facts and a date. No insults. No begging. No games. At the top, I added a single line in my handwriting. You chose distance. I chose clarity. Consider this your confirmation email. At noon, I received delivery confirmation. 15 minutes later, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Missed calls. Messages. All from Lydia. What is this? Are you exaggerating? This wasn't final. Are you really getting divorced over a 30-day favor? And then came the pivot. Lydia, slipping straight into the victim role like it was a coat she wore every winter. And of course, Maya wasn't far behind. Are you really punishing her for helping someone? Are you destroying everything over pride? Typical. When you block their path to your peace, they call it selfishness. When you set boundaries, they cry cruelty. I didn't reply, not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I had already said everything. With 30 days of silence. At 6 p.m., I turned off my phone, and I slept, like I hadn't in years. The next day, they returned as if nothing had happened. I was on the couch, half watching a game, when I heard the garage door rumble open. I didn't even flinch, didn't pause the TV, didn't mute the sound. Lydia walked in first, like she was coming back from a spa weekend, not 30 days of emotional abandonment. Maya trailed behind her, dragging a suitcase in one hand and scrolling on her phone with the other. Without looking up, she asked, "Do we need anything from the store? Like milk or eggs?" As if that's what we were doing now, slipping back into routines, pretending nothing cracked or broke in their absence. Lydia glanced around and let out a little sigh. Well, we're home. There it was. The line. As if those words alone should thaw the ice, rewind the clock. I didn't get up. I just nodded. A nod, nothing more. I could feel her watching me, waiting for more. An embrace, a soft smile, a question, anything that would signal we're okay. She got none of that. Maya walked to the dining table, where I had my laptop and paperwork spread out, budget sheets, bills, court documents, and said flatly, "Can you move your stuff? I need to set up." That was it. That was the moment. I stood up. Calm. Controlled. No yelling. No dramatics. Just clarity. No, that's not going to happen. Lydia's head tilted, eyebrows drawn together like she had just heard something in a language she didn't understand. "Excuse me?" she asked. I kept my voice steady. "You can't just walk back in here like this is a sitcom. Like we hit pause, and now we're pressing play again. You made decisions. So did I." Maya dropped her backpack to the floor with a huff, arms crossed. "This is our home. Today, it's where I live." I looked at her, steady. "If you want to come in, you start at the door." Lydia stared at me, her face flickering between confusion and offense. "We were only gone for a month," she said, her voice rising slightly. "We didn't cheat on you. We didn't destroy anything. I was helping someone. Someone who lost his wife. Why are you being so dramatic?" I breathed in. Let the words settle before I answered. "You were helping your ex," I said slowly. "You went to live with him. You cooked for him, cleaned his house, posted photos smiling like you were trying out for the sequel of your old life. And you expected me to sit here, waiting, maybe with warm towels and open arms." She didn't answer. Didn't need to. The silence between us was enough. Heavy. Icy. I reached behind me and handed her the manila envelope I had prepared. Inside, everything I'd canceled. Subscriptions. Automatic payments. Credit cards. Streaming services. Even the astrology app. At the top of the packet was a typed list, expenses she never asked about, but always assumed I would continue to shoulder. Lydia took the envelope like it might burn her fingers. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but couldn't find the right words. Maya looked around, finally picking up on something deeper. Something real. "Can't we even stay tonight?" she asked, her voice almost small. "If you want, you can sleep in the garage," I said. "Your mother's boxes are there. Or you can stay with one of your friends like you usually do." Lydia's voice cracked just a little when she finally spoke again. "You sent us divorce papers. That's crazy." "What's crazy?" I said, my voice calm but firm. "Leaving your husband to go play happy family with your ex, and then getting angry because he's no longer waiting for you." Maya scoffed, grabbing her bag again. "Wow, how toxic." I smiled, a little sad but steady. "Setting boundaries isn't toxic. What's happening is you don't like them when you're not the one controlling them." Lydia lowered her voice, almost like she thought that could erase the past few weeks. "So that's it. You're giving up." I met her eyes. "I gave you 30 days. You used them. Now I'm using mine." They both stood there, frozen, like they were still trying to solve some complicated riddle. But there wasn't one. Just decisions and consequences. Finally, Lydia turned away and left, no hugs, no apologies. Maya followed, muttering something under her breath. I didn't bother to catch it. I stayed where I was, listening to the door click shut behind them. Then I moved through the house, not lost, but wanting to feel it. The space. The silence. The newness. The house felt bigger, not in size, but in something else. Emotionally. There was more air, more freedom, more room to just exist without someone constantly pushing or pulling me. I walked to the kitchen and looked up at the mug cupboard, the one Lydia always filled with her empowered girl mugs. Now it was half empty, and honestly, I liked it that way. I went into the bedroom and laid down on the bed, looked up at the ceiling fan off. The remote still sat on her side of the bed. I didn't touch it. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I understood something unexpected. I wasn't angry. I wasn't resentful. I was at peace. It was over. The day of the hearing was nothing like what Lydia might have imagined. No audience. No dramatic reactions. No epic music. Just a cold hallway. Worn carpet. A couple of lawyers carrying briefcases like it was any other Tuesday. Lydia arrived well-dressed but tense. Curly hair, full makeup, and the necklace I gave her 2 Christmases ago, the one she said made her feel elegant. Maya didn't come with her, which surprised no one. They talked a lot at home, but in reality, they were mostly silent. Lydia barely looked at me when she came in, just nodded with tight lips and sat on her side of the room as if we were strangers waiting for the dentist. My lawyer leaned toward me quietly. She's nervous. Should I? I told my lawyer no, that Lydia had already filed a formal response to the divorce. Nothing special, just some vague phrases about misunderstandings and that she never wanted the separation to be final. Legal jargon, really, written when everything was already falling apart. But that didn't matter anymore. What mattered was what was in writing and everything I had backed up, printed, and neatly organized. When the judge entered, he wasted no time. We are here for preliminary hearings on the division of marital property and temporary support, he said without enthusiasm. Honestly, I appreciated that. I wasn't looking for drama, I just wanted peace and signed documents. Lydia's lawyer spoke first, just like I expected. Your Honor, the 30-day period was not abandonment. It was a compassionate gesture, a show of support for a grieving person. Our client responded to the pain of a lifelong friend. It was not a flight from the marriage. He literally used the phrase mourning another's grief as if Lydia was some kind of saint, not someone who packed her bags and went to live with her ex while still wearing her wedding ring. I stayed serious, keeping my face still. Then my lawyer got up and walked over to the judge without raising his voice. He placed a thick folder on the stand. Inside were all the documents. The email I sent Lydia the night she announced she was leaving, detailing the voluntary 30-day separation, specifying that she would be financially independent and that all joint expenses would be paused. Her reply, one word, confirmed, with the date and time. Screenshots from our shared cloud account, photos of Lydia cooking at Emerson's house, sitting next to him on the porch swing. A selfie with the caption "Good Energy and Healing Company." It wasn't scandalous, but it was intimate enough to destroy her story of temporary compassion. A detailed record of account cancellations, password changes, and digital unlinking, everything documented and dated. No emotions, just facts. The judge flipped through each page silently. He didn't ask a single question, like he'd seen this story too many times before. Lydia lowered her gaze, as if afraid that folder would suddenly burst into flames. Her lawyer tried to recover. We are not questioning the end of the marriage, Your Honor. We are only asking the court to consider temporary financial assistance and shared access to lifestyle assets due to the length of the marriage. My lawyer didn't hesitate. She left the house by her own choice. She signed it, acknowledged it, and agreed to the financial separation. My lawyer was just following procedure. There was no confusion, only a sense of misguided entitlement after the fact. The judge looked up for the first time. Mrs. Sanchez, how long were you absent? Lydia cleared her throat. 30 days, living with her former partner. She nodded. Yes, but it wasn't romantic. The judge raised an eyebrow. That's irrelevant, he said firmly, then tapped the folder lightly with his finger. What is relevant is that it is stated here she left voluntarily, acknowledging that she was acting on her own accord and understood the consequences. He turned to my lawyer. All the documentation is in order. There are no signs of abuse, coercion, or inappropriate conduct. Finally, addressing both of us, he said, the request for spousal support is denied. The division of assets will follow the standard agreement. No retroactive claims for voluntary abandonment will be considered. Lydia seemed to have swallowed stones. She didn't cry or protest, she just wore that frozen expression of someone caught between anger and understanding. Her lawyer touched her arm and whispered something, but she didn't move. The judge continued. As for the property, it remains in Mr. Sanchez's name according to the title records. There is no dispute. Lydia's lawyer made one last attempt. And what about my daughter? She's 19, but still partially dependent. The judge didn't even look up. She's an adult. This is not a custody hearing. And so the matter was settled. Lydia didn't say a word as she left the courtroom. She looked smaller, not physically, but like someone who bet on a version of reality that never materialized. Outside, I sat on a bench waiting for my ride. I had already canceled the ride-sharing service we used to use together, and I wasn't about to pay for her trip back to her sister's house. After a while, she approached and sat on the other end of the bench, leaving at least 2 feet between us. After a long silence, she said, "You didn't even try to fix this." I looked at her. "You moved in with another man and expected me to leave the door open." She shook her head, more confused than upset. "So you just shut everything down?" I didn't reply. I just understood that I was the only one still holding on. She didn't reply. She sat there for another minute, as if still processing it. Finally, her sister's car arrived. Lydia stood up without saying anything and left. I remained seated. The sun wasn't shining any brighter that day, but it was cleaner, like it was finally illuminating the correct version of my life. On the way back, I sent Delia a message. I told her it was all over. Her reply was simple: "Finally." Later, I received an email from my lawyer. The subject line read, "Final version, no fault exit." That night, I grilled a steak just for me. I ate it in silence, accompanied only by tranquility. Honestly, that felt like the real victory. Exactly 9 days after the trial, Lydia reappeared unannounced. One Tuesday afternoon, she knocked on the door. I opened it, and there she was, attitude in full bloom, arms crossed as if I owed her explanations. "You changed the locks." Not even a greeting, just demands disguised as formality. I leaned against the doorframe. "You don't live here anymore." She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might pop out. "So this is how you're going to act?" "I gave you space, and this is what I find." "You didn't give me space," I said. "You gave your ex my space." She ignored that. "I need to pick up some things." "I left important things." I shrugged. "The luggage is in the garage. You can go through it, but that's it." Lydia stepped forward like she was going to force her way in. "I'm not going to do this here. You're not doing it inside either." She seemed disoriented, like the reality that this wasn't her house anymore was just hitting her. Like the judge's ruling didn't matter because, in her mind, we were still on a break. "Well, this is what you've become," I said. "Cold, resentful, kicking your wife out as if she were a stranger." "Ex-wife," I corrected. "And strangers don't usually treat me like I'm disposable." Lydia huffed. "Do you think this makes you a better person?" I tilted my head. "I'm not trying to be better. I just want to be left alone." She hugged herself tighter, more tense. "I gave you time. I gave you space. I thought you would calm down." "You were wrong," I replied flatly. She glanced toward the car. "Maya is in the car." "That makes 2 people who don't live here anymore," I said. She glared at me. "You really don't care after all these years." "You didn't give me years," I shot back. "We shared time. Then you gave yours to someone else as if I were eternal." "I'm not." She didn't like that answer. She started pacing on the porch, like she was rehearsing a speech. "Do you know what it feels like to not be seen? To live with someone who doesn't listen?" I nodded. "You're describing the last 3 years of our marriage." She clenched her jaw, and I knew she was losing control of the script. She tried to say something, but didn't finish the sentence. I waited. She said nothing more. "Did you think I'd be here with the porch light on waiting for you to come back?" "I thought you would understand," she murmured. "And I did," I replied. "That's why I filed the papers." Lydia opened her mouth again, but stopped herself. She looked toward the garage. "Fine. I'll get my things." Without another word, she went down the stairs. From the window, I watched her open the trunk of the car and start putting boxes in, without even checking them. Maya didn't get out of the car at any point. Lydia slammed the trunk shut and got into the passenger seat. They stayed for another minute, then drove off. I stood there watching the empty street, then locked the door. Not out of habit this time, it was different. It felt like closing a chapter. Not the kind they suggest in therapy, but the kind that manifests in real life when you realize peace is not something you're given, it's something you choose. Later, I checked my emails. There was one from Maya. No subject, just reproach. "You let mom fall apart and did nothing. You could have fixed it, but you preferred to be right than to keep your family." Not a word about having supported her mother's decision to leave with another man. Nothing about all the bills I paid while they accused me of being controlling. Zero responsibility. I didn't reply, because when someone sees you as the technician who has to fix their mistakes, not as a person, they don't deserve a reply. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.